Now we are going to start with testing.
Under normal circumstances, I don't need a microphone, but I will be professional. Dzień dobry, Państwu. Am I freaking you out yet?
Yes. Polish? I'm understanding.
Yeah, Linda said I was going to do my entire presentation in Chinese, and I thought I'd freak everybody out by just doing it all in Polish.
Go for it. Go for it.
I blew my wad right there. Okay, maybe not entirely, but that was close to it. So, I could say a few other things, but they would probably not be appropriate in a school setting. So, okay. So, I would like to talk to you about empathy and learning a language. So, feel free. Is there a symbol? Do I like those? Yeah. I don't know. Okay. All right. People learn languages because they feel the need to communicate. That's what basically this is saying. I put it up here because it says it in such a nice way. Does anybody understand it? Okay, for those of you that understand it, please raise your hand. Okay, and they're all native English speakers. Because nobody in the back raised their hand at all. This is just telling you the reason we all learn any language, our first language, a second language, is because we want to communicate with others. Okay. I just like lots of words. Okay. The ability to empathize with others is the need or the feelings. You want to understand the feelings, the thoughts, the needs, and the behaviors of others. I think this comes into play when you start to try and teach a language, because many people have issues with learning not only their first language, but any second language. And nobody understands that until you try to learn a language or try to teach a second language. You have to, Carol, you would guess. You have to walk in someone else's shoes. This is one of my favorite quotes. And if anybody can tell me who it's from. Well, technically it's from To Kill a Mockingbird. One of my favorite books. Okay? But it tells you that you can't really understand someone else's problems, their issues, their feelings, until you take some time to walk around in their shoes, walk around in their skin, to understand how hard it can be for someone to try and learn a language. When you're trying to learn a second language, you are basically taking on an entirely different identity. You need to step out of your comfort zone and start to try and push the envelope there, to try and say things and do things that you might not normally do. So you need to be a different person. If you can empathize with your students, understand how they feel, how difficult this is for them to speak in another language, this is going to help you teach so much. Every single day I'm in front of my students, they get a good opportunity to laugh at me as I try to learn Chinese. And that, in my opinion, that shows them that I'm willing to try, but it also shows them it's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to say something wrong. It's okay to say, is that item fruta, as opposed to, is that fruit? Because I still understand what they mean, and I can help them get over that hurdle of trying to speak it. Okay. The biggest problem most people have in trying to learn a language is trying to learn to speak like a native speaker. That's going to be your biggest challenge. And you don't have to be perfect. It does not have to be exact. You're going to find that native speakers of English are from so many different areas, so many different continents, that everyone has an accent. I made a joke earlier today about there are enough dialects in America to fill the world. You can go north, south, east, west. You've already got 4 different dialects. And sometimes they don't even understand each other, and they're all speaking English. Yeah, an example, soda, pop,
Tomato.
tomato,
Caramel.
caramel?
I say caramel.
Well, you're weird, but
I
that's,
say caramel.
okay.
You caramel. Caramel.
Okay, milk.
Caramel. Milk.
Okay. What?
Flathead.
What?
Flathead.
What's that?
PE.
That's what my roommate from Minnesota told me.
And what is it?
PE.
Five.
Phys ed. Oh,
Five. Okay.
Where she was going for 2 weeks.
Well, and then there's some English in the United States no one will understand. Minnesota. Okay. I'm sorry. I forgot.
Right there.
Listening.
The only way you can ever learn to speak a language is by trying to speak it. Your pronunciation will be wrong. My pronunciation in Chinese is wrong every time I open my mouth. But I keep trying. I don't know if I get a little better or not. But I still, even after many months, students will see me in school and still look at me and go, "Shishi wei." Vampire? They call me a vampire because that's the first word I ever learned to speak in Chinese that they understood. So they'll still look at me and go, "Shishi wei." And they think it's hysterical, and I go, "No." And then I told them one day, "Mimi, Shishi wei." So I'm a secret vampire now. That's what they, I don't know. Okay. Things that you can do, habits you should get into, habits that your students need to get into to start to learn to speak the language. You need to talk to strangers. I can't tell you how many times I'm sitting at the train station or on the train or someplace and I start talking to a stranger or they start talking to me. Half the time they will come up and say, "Do you speak English?" And I go, "Yes." "May I practice?" "Please, talk to me. I love English. It's the only language I'm good at." But they're scared. The kids in school, a lot of the people that I've walked up to and talked to, they're scared to talk to me because they're afraid that their English isn't going to be good enough. It doesn't have to be perfect. As the Taiwanese teachers can attest to, you've listened to the few of us speak, our English is not perfect. Grammatically, we stink.
I think that goes back to some teaching methodology that we need to
Yeah.
think about, because a lot of times when they speak, and they're speaking a full sentence, even though I know they've made a mistake in the middle of it, I wait until they're at the end, and then I address the whole class, and I say, "Let's practice this word all together." So you're not targeting that student. Many times, if a teacher, when they're starting to speak a sentence, the teacher will stop and hammer them on that word. Right away, it's telling them, don't talk unless it's perfect. Don't speak unless it's perfect.
And that's discouraging them from ever wanting to speak English at all. If you're going to pick on, I hate to say it, this is my mom's term, nitpick on every little mistake, no one would ever take up a foreign language. No one would probably ever learn the first language because it's too much. You know, as a little child, when you say something wrong, people still understand you. You know, you point and say, "Want? Want? Nobody looks at you and goes, "You must say, I want that. I want a glass of milk." You know, so you have to empathize with the way people are learning and encourage their learning. To empathize with somebody, you're challenging your prejudice and their prejudice. You're going to discover new things that you have in common. I swear my biggest joy in Taiwan has been looking at people and smiling and nodding and waving, because these are people I may never talk to, but I guarantee you, they look and they think, "Oh, that foreigner's kind of a nice person." Or they might think I'm just a crazy person, but both of them are okay with me. So, but that's it. I'm okay if they think I'm a little crazy, because at least they think I'm a little crazy and not a bad person. I'm not giving them a mean look, I'm not looking at them in a bad way, and I'm not ignoring them. Even if it's just a nod as I walk down the hall to a teacher that I've never spoken to because they're afraid to talk to me, I nod at them and they nod back. And if I were here 10 more years, I might get a hello out of them too. You need to try on another person's life and see what it's like. I have students in class that they don't speak. Maybe they're slower students. Maybe they don't have any environment to learn English. Maybe they have no desire to learn English. Maybe they don't know why they're here in English class. But when I've got them playing a game or doing something else, I start to get a feel for them and why we're in the situation we are, and start to get them out of their comfort zone and maybe out of my comfort zone. So before you know it, they're talking a little bit. We played a game just the last couple days in school, and these kids, they're so quiet in this one class. It's like pulling teeth to get anybody to talk, and as they're playing the game, the more fun they're having, the more they're talking, and then the more they're talking, to the point where this is the most this whole group of students has talked all year. I was so excited, and it was that dumb game I bought at Toys R Us the other day. Seriously, yeah, like $6, I modified it, I'm like having fun with it, it's great. The other thing I'll tell you that I find is you have to listen to the students. Because if they say something, and they're saying it so quietly, and I can't hear them, I ask them to repeat, they stop. So you really have to listen up to them, and you have to kind of open up to them, which is why every time I turn around, I'm saying something in Chinese, but I'm saying it wrong. I know I'm saying it wrong. It's okay. I can make a mistake. I can show them if I can make mistakes, they can make mistakes. So if they say it wrong, I'm not too upset about it. I'm just happy that they're starting to talk. So develop an imagination about this person. If you can't figure out why they're not talking to you, start to think, why would it be? Maybe they have no opportunity to speak. Maybe they're from a very rural area. Maybe they're afraid that a teacher 5 years ago told them, I teach in middle school and high school. Maybe they're afraid that a teacher 5 or 6 years ago told them that they were not very good at English. So now they're afraid. Until you can get them starting to talk, you're never going to get it going any farther. Okay? Speaking English or speaking any foreign language is scary.
Sorry?
Yeah, you know, I'm sorry, I lost my mind. Spell check in China. Scary. Okay.
Roll the eyes.
The scary part is I didn't notice that. I was looking at the slides all day. Good. Spell check. Yes, bad thing. Okay. But if you are afraid of speaking the language, and this is where I speak to the Taiwanese teachers, if you are afraid of speaking English in front of your students are definitely afraid of speaking English in front of you. So if you can't speak English to them, they will never speak English in class. And you'll never learn English or any language until you find the need to use it. So the only time I've learned any Chinese while I'm here is when I've had to ask questions or talk to somebody or ask for something. It's the opportunity to speak Chinese while you're here. You kind of have to find it or want to. And it's so much easier just to rely on English while I'm here. But if you're in a position where you're trying to teach the language to somebody, you have to show them that you can use it too. Okay, delete that slide, please. How do you show students that you empathize with their feelings? They're all supposed to come up, so you just put them all on. You need to look at the kid when they're talking to you. So you don't want to be over here correcting papers or doing something else while your whole class is talking. You need to look at them while they're talking to you. You need to understand or try to understand what they're saying. If they didn't say it perfectly, big deal. Okay? So I kind of agree with what Linda was saying before about teaching grammar and teaching the vocabulary. If it's not perfect, I'm okay as long as I know what you want. And I still got some of the special needs students that come up to me, and they don't know many words, but the ones they do know, they use with me every single day. Attempt to listen to them without interrupting. So again, I'm agreeing with Linda, don't correct them as you go. If somebody says something wrong, it's okay as long as I understand. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay? And give the students some time to think. I've seen teachers ask questions, and then, what day is it? And it's not a fast enough answer, so then they answer, it's Wednesday. Like, none of these students knew. It's just, they might have known if you would have given them another 30 seconds, because they're afraid to talk. And you have to figure out a way to pull it out of them, too. Show by facial expressions that you are listening. Especially, don't sit there and start texting people. Don't do stuff on your phone. Don't be making notes on a piece of paper while someone's trying to talk to you. Not only does that show that nobody's paying attention, it also shows that you're kind of rude, which doesn't happen in Taiwan. I think that's more something in the United States. So, okay? Show students that you're a learner too. Make mistakes. It's okay. I have one co-teacher that I work with really well. I love her. She's great. She will stand in front of the class and ask me a question. How do you pronounce this word? What does this word mean? Is it this or this? And we'll have an entire conversation about the meaning of one word in front of the whole class, and that's the class that speaks the most English. I mean, and I think part of that is just the attitude of that teacher. Are you the only teacher speaking in class? Are you the only person speaking in class? Do your students speak up? Are you encouraging your students to speak up? I have stood in classes in Taiwan where the teacher's the only one talking. And that's sad. I mean, I understand you have a lesson to teach, but you have to let students talk too. Okay. All right. You need to use your new language as much as possible, as much as your students need to use it. Okay? People with empathy, I'm having a speech problem today myself. Empathy would say things like, I understand how hard it is. I understand what you're saying. I'm glad you're trying. You're doing a good job. Give them encouragement. Okay? Okay? I don't know why I did that, but anyway. People that demonstrate empathy, it's going to be something that's going to help people get along. Teachers and students are going to be able to get along better. It's going to reduce stress and tension in the workplace and in classroom. Okay. It's going to create a safe learning environment, which is really important. Okay. Okay, the greatest gift of human beings is that we have the power to empathize with others. So it's past sympathy, it's something, walking in someone else's shoes. That's one of my favorite sayings. So, questions, concerns, complaints? Sorry.
I got a question.
Okay. Purple. Sorry. My answer.
Orange. So when you have tried to speak Chinese in your class, this time, have you seen any bit of the mood shift a little bit?
100%. Because they will stand there and first they will giggle, and then they will say the word again, and they will do the accents for me. And I'm like, okay. And I think that's great, because I swear there are a few of these little kids that are going to grow up to be teachers, because they're great.
Have you seen that as their reaction to you as also them being a little more looser to try
Oh, yeah.
to say it?
And that's why I'm saying that, is that when I try to speak to them, even when I try to say something, just a word or two, all of a sudden they're starting to loosen up, and they understand that I don't speak any Chinese, and they're willing to try to talk to me in English. And I'm never ever going to come up to them and say that's wrong. I'm going to say, if I don't understand, I'm going to ask them. I'm going to try and pull it out of them as much as possible. But they're very willing to try. I mean, a lot of them are. So I think that the thing that I see is that a lot of times teachers are teaching English in Chinese and not using English at all. And I don't think you can get away with it. I don't think that's good